Now, you are quite strongly involved in organisations that support and advocate better representation of women in the ad industry. Tell us what the issues are there and how you're trying to solve them, and what is the current position of gender balance in the sector?
So I am heavily involved. It's something I feel really, really strongly about, always have done. Quite tragically, as I've talked about fairly openly, I wrote my dissertation at university on women in advertising, and one of the things that massively attracted me to the sector was the creativity and the dynamism and the future-facing nature of the industry. But what really shocked me when I was at university is the lack of female leadership. So at the time, there was about 14% of sort of CEOs, managing directors and senior board positions were women. 20 years later, it is now only 25%. So progress, fantastic. Any progress is good progress, but still not enough. And our industry in the UK is absolutely split 50-50 at entry level. And then by the time you get to the top, it's only 25%. So that is a concern. And I don't believe in quotas, but what I am a believer in is meritocracy. And I think one of the challenges that as an industry that we face is that perhaps those numbers are not showing meritocracy. But what I would say is that versus other sectors and other industries, we are well ahead, and that's great. And I'm really proud to be involved in an industry that is pushing forward, but we still have more work to do.
It feels like society is changing in some ways. There's a growing representation of women in sport at some levels in the UK, perhaps politics. Where would you say advertising industry stacks up against other sectors of industry?
So I think that we're probably up there in terms of the percentages, certainly when you look at, say, the financial sector or the manufacturing sector and so on. And you're right, there has been really good progress and people are talking about it much more openly. So, for example, we have very recently the first female editor of a broadsheet newspaper of The Guardian being appointed, which was, I was delighted about. One, she's meant to be a huge talent, but I think that sends a really good signal that a business such as The Guardian, quite a long established business, has made that decision. And I do hope, when my boss is a female, global CEO Laura Desmond, who's amazing and inspirational, but I can't help but noting that none of the big network bosses, so Sorrell, my own big boss, Maurice Levy, the head of IPG, and Omnicom, John Wren, they're all men. And I do hope that in my time in the industry that we will see a female CEO of one of the major networks.
Women as consumers, of course, play quite a large part in the advertising industry as an audience. They comprise such a large share of, for example, TV audience that advertisers try to reach. How do you see that playing out in the future as TV as a medium becomes more digital? What will happen to the woman in the household as the TV media go more online?
Well, I think that one of our clients is Procter & Gamble, and who know women and mums better than arguably any other brand or advertiser in the world, in fact. And I think that one of the things that we are seeing is that women are actually leading the way a lot, and this sort of the myth of women watching lots of daytime TV. If you look at the stats that Facebook and Twitter put out, actually they're very, very active in that. And I think that there are some advertisers, Procter & Gamble are not one of them, that are taking a bit of time to wake up to that and to necessarily be able to make the shift and have a more content-led and more digital-led media strategy or marketing strategy than they've had in the past. So I think from my perspective, I'd say young women in particular, there's a really strong movement around those, and I think that next generation of mums, they will engage with brands in very differently. Their expectations of brands, how they expect brands to talk to them, engage with them, the CSR that they expect brands to have. It's very, very different than it was a generation or two ago. And I think smart brands are responding to that. And Procter & Gamble, you can see in their work, such as Like a Girl and what they did with the Olympics, are really leading the way in that area.